Greetings and welcome back to this segment of Joy in Our Town. We have a great topic, and we have two great guests with us today to discuss this topic. We have with us Gordon and Carri Taylor with Opportunities Unlimited. Our issue is youth, and the topic's children of divorce and step families. Gordon and Carri, tell us a little bit about Opportunities Unlimited before we enter into the subject matter.
Okay, well, Gordon is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm a certified communication skills trainer and executive coach. But my background is also in film production. We're from California and came to Oklahoma just over 5 years ago. So I've continued the film production, but it's documentaries. It's about relationships. We are a step family of over 26 years now.
Okay.
So I think we're going to make it. We brought 5 children to the marriage, and we now have 10 grandchildren, and we literally raised my oldest biological granddaughter from birth. She is out of the house finally, and 21 years old, doing well.
So
we've lived.
Grandchildren raising grandparents raising grandchildren.
Yes, we've done the step-family thing, the grandparents as parents thing. So we've lived what our ministry and our business is all about.
Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Now you've already talked a little bit about the personal experience, how you got in it. Did that drive you into this kind of work?
Oh, absolutely.
Did it really? Okay.
It was survival.
Yeah, to learn more about it and
Absolutely. We both knew that we were a high-risk couple, and we'd done a lot of work after our divorces, before we even knew each other, divorce recovery, which is so essential, and understanding ourselves better. So when we met, we knew if we were going to survive, we needed to understand what we were getting into.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things I don't think people realize is when you enter into the step relationships after divorce, my goodness, it's, you know, marriage itself, just on a flat, even, plain basis, is a difficult proposition. Let's be honest. But I mean, just the difficulty that is multiplied.
Right.
You know,
Well, to focus on the children of divorce and single-parent families are tough enough. It's a very stressful environment. But people tend to think that when a couple gets remarried, that this is going to solve problems, when in fact for the children it tends to create another problem of instability and where do I belong. So one of the key factors, or the key factor in re-divorce for a second or third time, is the inability to parent the kids effectively. And so what we do is really, even in divorce, you focus on the kids, hopefully. There's a lot of conflict, but in step-family education, we tend to focus on the children and the adjustments and the instability that they have to deal with in what now looks like a family, but it's a different family.
Well, we say the difference between a first marriage and a second marriage is the difference between an apple and an orange. But when we don't understand the orange, we think, especially when we're in love, that we're just going to do a better and bigger apple. And everybody's going to come together and love one another.
I got it right this time.
And then all of a sudden we find ourselves in an orange and think, what happened? And so the divorce rate goes up because my expectations weren't met, my kids are acting out, you know, we're wondering, what have we done? Even though I may have picked a better partner, if I don't understand where I am in the territory, it can blow up.
How much work do you guys think needs to go into when a couple is planning on remarrying and there are children involved? Because and I may be off bit, but the tendency would be, I would think, when you're entering into an emotional relationship like that, that those two folk, as you said, Carri, are in love and they're focused on each other. How much work do you think ought to be done, even though they're in love? How can you get their attention to say, we know you're in love, but what about your children on both sides?
George, you hit our passion button here. We're big fans of remarriage preparation. And we like to start even when the divorce recovery is going on in a single again person's life. Let them know what they're facing down the line. But as you've just said, when they fall in love, or Carri refers to it as brain dead, that we lose all objectivity, and then we tend to move into this new orange family that we don't know anything about. And again, the children take the brunt of the problems there. And here's one of the key factors, that we bring pre-existing relationships, biological relationships, in with step relationships, which are the new one, and that's where the clash and the complexity builds up. And for a remarried couple, the stress is 3 times that of a first married couple.
And that's researched.
Yeah.
That is researched.
Man.
And we've found, we've been married over 26 years, and he recently went and spent some time with his ex-wife and his 3 sons, just to revisit what has this been like for you. And as good of relationships as we've had over the years, and the boys will even say, we're all one big family.
Right.
When they revisit the pain of the divorce and the remarriage, it was like, you left us. You had a new family and you left us behind. And as we work with step families over the years, this is the theme of stepchildren. You left me. And what I have also done in my research in documentaries is in interviewing children of divorce and adult children of divorce, they'll say, I didn't call it my home. I called it dad's home or mom's home. It wasn't my home. I've had 40-year-old people tell me, I still don't think I belong anywhere.
Well, and I'll add to that the children are now living in 2 different worlds. Dad's world, mom's world, whether each or both are remarried. And I have to learn this culture, I have to learn this culture, I have to learn survival skills in 2 places now. And many times the one home will say, well, my child comes back and lies to me. And I try to reframe that. I said, they're just trying to survive. They're telling you what they think you want to hear so they have a safe place, and they're doing the same thing in the other home. So the stressors that the children go back and forth with are just off the chart.
You said something earlier that I thought was very interesting. The kids, when a couple gets married, gets divorced, obviously there was a reason for that. Then they find someone to get married, and the thought in either one of those person's head is, I'm going to bring a little more stability to the family. And that child is, because you guys have just talked about it, it in essence creates a bit more instability than it does stability.
Absolutely.
Well, and especially, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If there's a war, I mean, you didn't get divorced for no reason.
Right.
And if many couples then use the children as fodder.
Oh my goodness.
Between one another, and that is so devastating. And the best thing anybody can do for their children is to be able to be with their ex-spouse peacefully in a room together, and be able to relate together without the war. Right. And we saw this happen one Christmas when I invited the whole extended family, his ex-wife, his boys at that time weren't married, their girlfriends, anyone they wanted to bring, my family. And his oldest son said, there were 2 watershed points in my life. One was the divorce, the next one was that Christmas. This son, his oldest son, still thanks me for doing that Christmas. And they could not stop thanking us all day long. Man. It opened the doors and really opened the relationship in our entire extended family.
When I ask a remarried couple, how are your children doing? Inevitably, I get the answer, well, they're doing great, they're doing fine. And I hear the word resilient. They're resilient, they're going to bounce back. Well, by definition, resilient means it returns to its original shape or position. That's right. And that never happens. Never. The children are survivors. Doesn't mean they can't go on and live productive lives or anything, but educationally, health-wise, there are huge problems that result from this instability. So I try to convince the adults in this that are so happy that these kids are processing a lot, and they're trying their best to survive, but many times at a very early age when they really don't have the coping skill. And even with adult children who are coping, the coping skills that they have are many times negative instead of positive. Right.
Listen, I want to jump to, because this is interesting, and it's very interesting because of the number of remarriages after divorce that's occurring in our society. I want to hear some ideas about what are some of the things these individuals need to be thinking about and doing prior to getting married, after getting married. I love the idea about bringing everybody together, but that's not a safe thing to do, so you have to be a little careful.
Take a little time.
Yeah, right. But so, talk to us about the things that you guys have seen over the years. That these are some things that would be very helpful in this situation.
Education.
Education.
Find out what that orange is about, what you're going to be going through, because what we've had couples that get educated, they'll say, well, I know there's going to be surprises, but I don't have to be surprised about the surprises.
Mm-hmm.
Or as you say.
Well, when you go through the step family jungle, there's trees there, problems. And you're not going to get rid of them, but you don't have to bump into every tree that's in the forest. Okay. And so we say with skills, with education, with awareness raising, and support. Step families really need support because parenting at best is difficult. We have financial problems which break up families all the time. But we say, in that word, which is one of our favorite, educate yourself about this, look for resources, of which we're a part of that, and so you can be knowledgeable, and then you up your chances for success.
Yeah, and you have DVDs and CDs available on your website.
We do.
Now, because I'm a pastor and I do pre-marriage counseling. There is a big difference, and I'm hearing that right now. Kind of point out to me some of those major differences in me dealing with a couple, first marriage, trying to get together, and you touched on some of those, but a couple more of those things.
Well, a couple. One is pre-existing relationship. I have children that I'm bringing with me, and the death knell of the step family is where my new spouse says, well, you pick. It's either me or your children. That's automatically lose-lose. And so relationship discrepancies are a big thing. Finances, mine, yours, and how do we make it in ours? Because
and when do we make it in ours?
Right.
Oh, when?
Yeah,
I may have debt, I may have assets, and there's always more of it in a remarriage situation.
Well, and the importance there is disclosure. I mean, how many couples, even first marriages, really talk about money?
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
But I have assets, debts, you have assets, debts. I have a home, you have a home, I have furniture. I love my stuff. I don't love your stuff. So how are we going to pull this together and eventually be in ours? So it takes planning.
I'm hearing, we talk about honesty, when you get married, honesty, marriage, honesty. Yeah. But it seems like, if I could say this, though it's kind of crazy to say it's like honesty would be even more important.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge. Absolutely
I
huge.
I do want to say there's hope, though.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I want to end on a nice note that there's wonderful things that can happen in a step family if you're prepared for it.
Yeah. I like this attention you guys are bringing to it. I mean, that, you think about that, but it happens. It's so large in our communities right now.
Yes.
Man, it is just wonderful to hear that someone has done some work specifically on there. I read a book once about divided families. A young lady wrote about her experience in that. And so, man, this is very significant work. I think it's still cutting edge work, and so I want to thank you guys for what you're doing and ask that you continue to do it and continue to act it out through the experiences of your own life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon donations. Continual support can keep joy in our town brought to your home every week. So write to TBN, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711. The views on this program do not necessarily reflect the views of this station.